The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Giants baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the host of the show is Michael Duca. How are you, sir?
I'm in the Comfortably Chewing Network right at the morning. How are you?
You're having your morning breakfast and some heated coffee. Not a bad way to spend training, last day of trading deadline, whatever I'm saying. It's the 31st.
Today is the non-waiver trading deadline for those who observe.
At 1 o'clock Pacific, it is somewhere around 10:30 at this moment. So anything that you're expecting with the Giants? I understand that McCutchen may be coveted.
I understand that the Indians are kicking the tires. They need a center fielder. Probably the smartest thing that they could do would be to go get Adrian Beltre from the Rangers, move their third baseman to second base, and move Kipnis back out into center field where he played last year. But they are, I'm told, kicking the tires on McCutchen. And McCutchen would be a very reasonable trade target not only for other teams in contention. It would be reasonable for the Giants to consider giving him up if they can get anything that they value in return, because right now you've got a couple of players down in the minor leagues who are tearing it up. Mac Williamson's hot again. Last time I looked, which was, I think, Saturday, he was 12 for his last 36 with several home runs.
Nice. Nice.
And
if he weren't injured, I think he would have had a breakout year this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And, I mean, gosh, that can be said about almost the entire team. If you start taking the toll of injuries on this team this year, it's getting pretty frightening. It's looking like Johnny Cueto is heading for Tommy John surgery, which means that not only will he have effectively missed this year, but he will miss next year also, which is essentially half his contract. It's pretty clear that Mark Melanson's situation has not been medically resolved. Pablo Sandoval is now out with a hamstring. They've lost Joe Panik a couple of times this year. They've lost Brandon Belt a couple of times this year. They've lost Mac Williamson. Madison Bumgarner, Hunter Pence. It's the numbers are getting so large that it's hard to remember. And people will say, well, yeah, but the Dodgers, Corey Seager, and on and on. And lots of teams have had injuries, but the Giants seem to have them that are lingering through the entire season. It's to their credit that they've been able to hang in there as a 500 ball club. They're exactly 54 and 54 as we speak, exactly 2/3 of the way through the season. But I think it's unrealistic to think of this team as being likely to reel off 35 wins in their last 54 games and, go out there and put up an 89 or 90 win season.
Well, it's unrealistic to think that they'll be buyers, but they shouldn't really be sellers either on some level. Maybe McCutchen, Dugar's has come on. They did off Austin Jackson recently, which surprised me that you can't just blow it up. I saw something that was very interesting, that Matt Duffy might be on the trading block for Tampa. Now,
well, it seems like everybody's on the trading block for Tampa.
Right, but even though the Giants are not buyers per se, might it not be a bad idea to get him back?
Where would you play him? Where would you play him? I mean, you've got Longoria for 4 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that was a valuable piece. And
well, it was. But when Skeeter passed away, I'm not sure if his mojo didn't go with it.
Yes. Okay, let me get to my topic. My topic is the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you would be so kind to identify and separate the bad from the ugly, the truly ugly. Save that for last. But start with the good and try to make it to see as much positive as you can. I'll try to help you out with that. I think there are some things that can be gleaned from this season. First of all, and I'll start with the positive. With all the injuries, and as poorly as they did last year, to be playing close to 500 baseball at this point in the season is truly miraculous. Do you agree with that?
Boy, that's spoken like a true Mets fan. I don't know if it's all the way to miraculous, but I do think that it is an encouraging sign.
Very encouraging.
I think that when you lose 96 games, was it last year? 98 games. It's pretty easy to come back the next year and see most of the same guys around you in the locker room and think, oh, hell. Yeah, and just get down quickly. They didn't. They were excited coming out of spring training. Bumgarner breaks his hand on the last day of spring training in Arizona. And that sort of begins the cavalcade. I mean, eventually the hand injuries alone fell Bumgarner, Evan Longoria, and Hunter Strickland. And yet, despite that, I think we're seeing a number of positives that have come out of this team. And one of them is the emergence of Cortez Hernandez. I think you have to look at a guy who is on pace for 20 home runs, which, if he does it, will give him 20 more home runs than he had all of last season. He's played probably the best defensive outfield the Giants have so far. And, it's not just that he's been hitting some home runs. He's been hitting at times when it matters. He's, for a while he was known, his nickname was Daily Miracle. So I think that's one positive that you really have to look to. They've taken a chance on putting Steven Duggar in the outfield on a daily basis. They're letting him hit against lefties, which I like. I don't like seeing kids platooned early on. All that does is convince them that they can only hit one way. And he has proven to be the real deal. The speed has helped. The outfield defense has been solid. An old line from my old friend to whom I actually sold a computer once, an Apple II, former Giant shortstop Johnny LeMaster, was kind of the quintessential example of this, that, good players make routine plays look spectacular. Great players make spectacular plays look routine. And the thing about Steven Duggar is I can't really remember any plays he made in the outfield. He hasn't done anything that's looked spectacular out there, but he's made every play.
He's there.
And that's really what
you look up and the ball is hit, and you go, "Whoa!" But all of a sudden, you look up in a gap, in a triples gap, and there he is. That first,
and it seems effortless. Yeah, it seems effortless. He reacts well to the ball, and he seems to run good routes. And there's not much to complain about in his game. So I'd say that's the second positive. But for the injuries, I think Mac Williamson would have been a positive this year, and I think still has all the potential to be one. I think that, if they make a move and send out a veteran outfielder, that they're going to have some room to put him in. I think you have to look at the maturation process and the transformation away from an everyday player into a bench player by Hunter Pence as a positive. Here's a guy that everybody on the team looks to for leadership, a guy that everybody on the team looks to for inspiration, a guy who really and truly could have soured that clubhouse by pouting over what's happened to him this year. And he hasn't. He's taken it in a very positive way. He's become a positive force off the bench. And, it was very interesting. I woke up this morning, I read Twitter, and, Henry Schulman said, my Twitter feed is full of people who say Hunter Pence should be stuffed in the nearest dumpster. And yet when he comes up in the 10th or 11th inning and almost wins the game in San Diego, he comes up to an extended standing ovation by Giants fans on the road. It's an interesting thing.
Did I lose you?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please? I had another call coming in.
Oh, no, I thought I lost you.
No, you didn't. Other positives for this year. Gosh, Derek Rodriguez. I mean, I think the funniest tweet I've seen all year was Henry Schulman asking Minnesota fans if they've planned which street the World Series parade is going to be on, because if they have 23 pitchers on their 40-man roster better than Derek Rodriguez, they're going to be unbeatable in October. I mean, this kid, good, and a kid who didn't grow up as a pitcher or as a catcher. I mean, even if you grow up as a catcher, you grow up thinking how to get guys out, thinking pitch sequencing, thinking location, thinking how to maintain your calm in a situation. Now, he grew up in the outfield, where you watch the daisies grow until a ball's hit to you. And there is nothing about this kid that I don't love. His demeanor, his ability, he's just, he's quiet, he's humble. He acts like he spent his whole life in a major league clubhouse, which, by the way, he pretty much has.
Yeah.
As Pudge Rodriguez's kid, but he was clearly raised right, and he was clearly raised to be a major leaguer. Andy Suarez, who pitched with Rodriguez as a youth, growing up through Little League and American Legion ball and that sort of thing in South Florida. They've been teammates before. They're teammates now. And, in their last 11 outings each, I believe the Giants have won 14 of their 22 starts. That's not bad for 4-5.
No, not at all. Not at all. Can I interject something? That they managed to keep that strong up the middle type thing going now for about 6, 7, 8 years. They have a habit of, I guess Pence doesn't hurt, but they have a habit of looking at basic fundamentals that say if a team is strong up the middle, they're going to do well. And they've always kept to that. And what with Dugar emerging as he is, that continues. And I think that's a big positive for the future.
Well, if you build a ballpark from scratch yourself, if you hire the designers and you build a ballpark that is clearly the most slanted pitcher's park in all of Major League Baseball, then you better build your team around pitching and defense. and they have done so. The other positive is that I think Brandon Crawford has broken through to a whole new level. I am now, I eat dinner in the press dining room every night, and I am now being drawn into conversations where people have absolutely no qualms, absolutely no shame in saying that Brandon Crawford is in discussion as the best defensive shortstop of all time.
Whoa. What's really interesting?
As someone who's a 30
Go ahead. I thought that might be a sacrilegious statement for a second, and then I realized I'm having the same thoughts about Matt Chapman at third base, and I grew up watching Clete Boyer, and Brooks Robinson in the World Series, but Clete Boyer on almost a day-to-day basis in New York, and Chapman is defensively his equivalent, and maybe more so.
Well, Chappie has to calm down his arm a little bit. He has to learn when not to throw the ball, and he has to calm down his arm a little bit. Right now, I would have to say that the top defensive third baseman in the game and in the rankings or in the running for top defensive third baseman of all time
Arenado?
is Chapman's high school teammate, Nolan Arenado. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I can't agree with you more on that. I don't get to see him like I do Chapman on a regular basis, but
right.
You're right. But from a team that had Chavez playing third base and winning 6 Gold Gloves, you almost don't remember his defensive heroics next to this guy. And give credit to that first baseman they have over there,
Matt Olson. I would never in a million years teach my kids to hit like he does, but I sure would teach them to field like he does.
Oh yeah. And I don't think that's something that can be taught. I think that
maybe.
Power,
the power, no, but boy, that.
No, the Vic Power. I'm talking defensively. I don't think you can teach that kind of defense. I think that has to be just come natural.
Well, the reactions maybe have to come natural, but you can learn footwork, you can learn positioning, you can learn, how many first basemen do you see who go after balls that belong to the second baseman and then they'll get back in time? I mean, that's learnable.
Sure.
JT Snow worked on defense every day of his career, every single day. And I never saw a better first baseman in my life than JT Snow, and he was a guy who never, ever, ever took his defense for granted. He worked on it every day. He had the Barry Bonds work ethic. But you look at Crawford, and I had a guy with 30 plus years in Major League ballparks just volunteer to me the other day. I don't think I have ever in my career seen a player steal more runs than Brandon Crawford. Now, this guy saw Ozzie Smith's whole career. He saw Omar Vizquel's whole career. He saw Alex Rodriguez's whole career. And by the way, Rodriguez was a better shortstop than Jeter.
Absolutely that. Absolute. Much more range. And if it weren't for ego and that sort of New York thing where I'm the New York shortstop and all
I'm the captain. I get to play where I want to.
Right. What a selfish thing to do at that point, because he should have moved over to third and he might still be playing.
He was the better third baseman than Rodriguez. Rodriguez was a better shortstop, and both of them moved to a lesser position. They'll both make the Hall of Fame, but neither of them will have the recognition that they really deserve. I mean, Jeter will get his because of New York, but it won't be. He could have had a better and more impressive career. by switching positions. You know, Rodriguez was much better going up the middle than Jeter was.
I've said that for a long time, and the reason nobody really agrees with me overwhelmingly is, or you at this point, is because of that New York thing where stuff gets in the way. That should have been an automatic. And
I'm going to give you a perfect analogy, Ralph. Alex Rodriguez was the Yankees' Willie Mays. Not invented here, not good enough. What Willie went through for 10 years when he came to San Francisco. Greatest player on the planet, but we love Orlando and Willie McCovey more because they started here.
Right. So it comes down to Rodriguez playing in an era of steroids. His career is tainted. He was obviously involved in one level or another, but because you can't, people don't put the era that he played with. 90% of these guys were doing something to their body. Rodriguez, since he was 18 years old, was considered the greatest player in baseball. And he would have gone down as a Willie Mays type player in his career if people were able to put the idea that steroids were just a way of life. And the guys that got caught weren't the only guilty ones. Does that make any sense?
I have always maintained that we aren't discussing the players who were helped most by steroids. We never have discussed the players who were helped most by steroids, and we probably never will. And I'm talking relief pitchers. Nobody was helped as much by steroids as relief pitchers because what do steroids let you do? They let you recover faster.
Mm-hmm.
Who needs to go out and
give
maximum effort on their arm, maximum effort on their elbow? Who needs to be able to go out and throw 100 miles an hour 3 days out of 4? Closers.
Right.
And so if you're going to rag on hitters for taking steroids, then you should give them double credit for getting, crucial hits and home runs off guys who are on steroids.
No question. Rodriguez was the player of our time. After Bonds, who again, simply doesn't get the credit. If you look at it objectively, you just look at the numbers, that streak he went in, those 5 to 6 years, were Sandy Koufax-like years. He absolutely dominated those years. And why blame it on steroids when you can't say he was dominating in years where a lot of people did steroids, and as you say, relief pitchers. So, unfair.
One of the things that hardly anybody really looks at. Go take a look sometime at Bond's career numbers. And when you do, take a look at how many times he came to the plate and was not allowed to put the ball in play.
Intentional walks.
Intentional walks and just walks in general. How many people, how many guys have, been given a free pass 160 times in a season?
His on-base percentage is absolutely incredible. His OPS is over the top when you look at it that way. He was like Ted Williams. He would not swing at a bad pitch. Refused.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He had the rare combination of great eye. His eyesight was probably as good as anybody who's played the game. The ability to read and judge pitches very quickly, and then combine that with the lethal ability to let a pitch get deep into the strike zone or deep towards the catcher, and then trigger the fastest bat speed ever measured. I mean, when you put all that together, you can kind of understand why Buck Showalter walked in with the bases loaded.
I read a stat, and I don't know where I read it, that Babe Ruth walked like 34 times the bases loaded in his career. I don't know where that came from, but...
Well, he may have so done, but I think Bonds has the all-time record for intentional walks with the bases loaded because it was done twice, and I don't think anybody else has had it done more than once.
Oh, okay.
On the other hand, who knows? Since Ruth was from an era where we didn't keep very good stats.
That's true. And
in
we're
fact,
from an era where the official scorers keep great stats. How about that for a compliment?
Well, thank you. I'm going to take you a step further and say that those of us in my profession have statisticians probably jobs to Babe Ruth. Because before him, there just wasn't enough going on for people to care about piling up those numbers and keeping track of them.
Oh, that is very interesting. And, I mean, Home Run Baker hit 9 home runs, if you think about it. So, yes.
And led the league.
Right.
Led the league with 9 home runs.
Right. What did Babe Ruth hit more home runs than most teams combined in his day?
I think it was 1920. He hit more home runs than 6 of the other 7 American League teams, something like that. 1920, 1921.
Himself.
The first year he reached 50.
Gretzky-like statistics.
Yeah. And Babe Ruth and Rob Deere shared one thing. They both believed in the Gretzky mantra: you miss 100% of the pitches you don't swing at.
Yeah. Here's what's great about baseball. I was talking to someone the other day, and both realized that one fails. I mean, it's been said before, of course, 70% of the time, and you're a Hall of Famer. That kind of thing. So the mental aspect of it, to be able to live in a world where you go 2 for 4, and you would think, well, people looking in, he only did well 2 out of 4 times. That's mediocre. Why couldn't he do better? That kind of negativity to overcome
here's what they
that.
need to remember. If all the good players went 3 for 4, we'd be watching cricket.
Right.
You know, the games would take 3 days.
That's another thing. As if they don't.
Actually,
have you noticed things
Ralph,
speeding up a little bit? Has baseball reacted to it this year?
Absolutely. As of the All-Star break, the average time of game in baseball was down to 2 hours and 59 minutes, and that's a drop of, I think, 9 minutes from last year. When you spread that, that's a pretty big sample now. That's more than half of all the games that will be played this year. Giants play almost the fastest games in baseball now. I mean, their average time of game is something like 2:43, something like that. The longest games in baseball as a category are the Dodgers on the road, 3 hours and 12 minutes average.
Interesting. Let's get to the bad and the ugly for the Giants. Some bad that really was bad.
Well, it's probably not fair, but since you have an ugly category, we'll throw this into bad. I think a couple of guys that they've traded for in the past couple of years, you have to kind of look at as potentially, not having panned out the way you would hope, and that would be Mark Melanson, Jeff Samardzija, and to a lesser extent, Evan Longoria. I'm not sure that they're getting what they expected from any of those people.
Well, if there's no real ugly, I just thought of something. I'm a Met fan, so I'm expecting ugly all the time.
Well, I've got ugly for you.
Okay. I was going to say, don't stretch it. If there is no ugly, don't go for it. But if you do have an ugly, hit me with it.
Fractured fifth metacarpals. That's ugly.
When he smacks Hunter Strickland?
Well, Hunter Strickland, Madison Bumgarner, Evan Longoria, together they're going to miss one full baseball season to the same injury, a fractured pinky finger.
Well, didn't Hunter Strickland do it? Wasn't it self-inflicted?
To a large extent. The door played a part in it.
You're going to... That sounds like a Trump supporter. Yeah, that sounds like
No, I didn't say it was the door's fault and the door attacked him. I just said
okay. Was it Obama's fault? I'm just curious.
If he had, not been the athlete that he was and had swung and missed at the door, it wouldn't have been a problem. But he was good enough to actually hit it.
Good. Very good point. So I'm expecting him to come back.
And that's what you expect from
quite
a
bunter next
swing
year.
And a miss, right?
I'm expecting him to lead the league in sacrifice bunts and to help his team along the way because National League plays baseball and pitchers have to bat. So we are looking for positives this morning. That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
Because that shortened your bullpen, and that has probably put more pressure on Melanson. And by the way, what other? I got to say, this isn't even good. This is better than good that has come out of the season, and that is, through no fault of anybody's, certainly not through being smart enough to figure it out, but rather just through being desperate enough to stumble on it, they found Will Smith.
Yes.
And it's hard not to just sit back and smile when you see a Will Smith come into a game like last night, runners on, winning run on third base with 2 outs. And he goes, well, let's see. The safest way to deal with this is just to punch out the next 4 guys and let us score. And so that's what happened.
Yep. Yeah. A game like last night makes you feel like you hate to punt this season at this point. You wish to trade.
Yeah, you do, but you also have to remember that it was the Padres. The Padres seem to be, ever since Gary Sheffield and Andy Bennett left, the Padres seem to be permanently stuck in relentless sub-mediocrity.
Hey, ever since Nate Colbert left, if you want to think of it. Sure.
Well, no, Steve Garvey's not my Padre.
Yes, that's true. Steve Garvey was a pretty good Padre.
In more ways than one, if you'll remember correctly.
Oh yeah, yes.
I
love it in life when the most hypocritical are come to light. Steve Garvey was a great example. Alvin Dark in his day was a great example. I don't care how you live your life. Just live your life as it is. I don't want to hear one day that some of these guys, whoever they are, and I still think Chipper Jones, for some reason, I watched him get inducted into the hall this weekend. I've never liked him. And for some reason, I don't know if I heard it, why it sticks in my head, I think this guy was a juicer. And I think that was one of the big cover-ups that made Barry Bonds' case almost seem racial.
Yeah, I can't comment on that stuff, obviously, Ralph, because I'm as you know, an employee of the commissioner's office. But you know, your points make sense. Let's just put it that way. There's some circumstantial logic to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just me rambling, but it's what comes to mind from somebody who's looked at life a little bit. And when somebody goes back to Jackie Robinson,
okay.
just what he went through, and maybe I equate it with the current president in what he's doing to set the tone for more racism in this country. And notwithstanding that the founding fathers were slave owners, the shit continues, and it disgusts me.
Well, here's another interesting thing that most people don't realize, Ralph. The founding fathers who wrote the Constitution and set the minimum age of the president at 35 and decided that Supreme Court justices should be there for life. Here's three interesting facts that most people never learned in history class. Number one, almost all the founding fathers were too young to be president. Number two, for the first 100 years of the Republic, the average term of service for a Supreme Court justice was 7 years. Life was very short.
Oh, good point. They didn't
realize. Yeah, I mean, it's just and we talk about the originalists and the strict constructionists, and sometimes I get the feeling that people just interpret that the way they want to interpret it. You know, as far as your comments on people like Steve Garvey, who those who kind of saw through the facade always called him Pope Stevie the First. You know, I don't care how anybody lives their life. I really don't. I just don't think they should be out there telling everybody else how to live if they're not following their own scripture really close. You can't deviate from the script and still preach.
Have no need to tell other people how to live their lives because they're secure in the way they live their own lives. It's the ones that have to tell have to make an excuse for what they're doing to themselves or whatever it is. It's a human frailty that really sucks.
It is. And on that note, let's wrap it up because I have a brand new car being delivered to my house in 45 minutes, and I skipped 2 phone calls while we were talking, and I'll bet they both have to do with that.
Oh, well, you go get them and drive carefully.
Oh, there's no fun in that, Ralph.
Is it? No, isn't that what they tell every time you leave a major league game? And drive carefully. But that's exciting.
Trouble.
What kind of car? I'm just curious because what kind of car?
I'm getting a new Tesla.
Beautiful. What brought? And you have it? You buy it on the internet. This is how the world is today. You buy it on the internet, you get everything you want, and they deliver it right to your house.
That's exactly right. And it's strange as hell. I'm sitting here. I keep talking to my quote-unquote salesperson, my inside salesperson at Tesla, asking, okay, so how do we handle this and how do we handle that? Because it's, you know, I'm so used to the pressure of car dealers that, you know, and
I was
and I
going to
know
say it's a wonderful experience getting a new car, but to have to go through the back and forth, and you know they make you feel like it's a privilege to sell to you.
Well, you know, I don't buy a lot of new cars. This is the fourth I've had in my life. The car that I was driving has 267,000 miles on it. I've driven it for 16 years. But I will tell you this, car dealers hate me because I walk in the door and I tell them, we're not going to have a long conversation here. I'm going to tell you what I want. You're going to give me your best price, and if I don't like it, I'm going to walk out the door. And, you know, occasionally they would try to play the game and say, well, I can do this. And that's not good enough. I say, well, let me go talk to my manager. I said, you do that. You got all day. I'm gone. And I found one guy at an Acura dealership who believed me, and I bought 2 of the 4 cars from him.
You just want the best deal, and you don't want the haggling.
Well, there's no point in it. As I told him, you know, you have a choice to make here. You can either spend an hour and a half not making any money, or 12 minutes earning a slightly smaller than usual commission.
Right, but you're going to use it real quick. You're going to earn it real quick, and it's clean, and it's out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, the people that responded, you bought from them again.
You get the business.
Yep.
Because
I'll ask you what color is it, black
and
orange?
I can't make my own car.
Is the car black and orange, Michael?
Well, Teslas don't come in orange. Okay, and they don't come in two-tones. They don't come in two-tone. It is metallic candy apple red, but the roof is solid tinted glass, so it looks like it's got a black inset on top if you look at it from above.
Now that's nice. That's nice. Drive in good health, my friend, and we'll be back.
Thank you, sir.
Before you know it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll come down and show you the car someday soon.
Come to Alameda, and we'll meet with Jerry, and we'll go to Nations, and we'll have fun.
Okay, or maybe we could go to Scolari's, is it?
Yes. That wonderful pizza. Is that what you're talking about on Park Street?
And sandwiches. He bakes his own bread there.
Well,
next door to Buckhorn.
I'll have you talk to Tally because she thinks that food is mediocre at Scolari's. And that's a New Jersey guy who came out here and set up based on his family owning diners back there. And if you want some good food, Alameda, California, Scolari's on Park Street, that's where we'll meet up.
All right, sir. Sounds like a plan.
Be well, my friend, and next time.
All right, until then.
All right, until that time, Eustace. Everybody listening, do me a big favor. If you enjoy our offerings or the offerings on the station, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, box up some new or gently used children's books and take them to the Head Start program in whatever community you live. Kids need it. They need to read. They need to develop an imagination. They need to get their noses out of the devices. They need to be school ready. And unfortunately, the kids that need it most are the kids who are going to benefit from the Head Start program. So it's like a roundabout way of saying you could help the future of this country, of this universe, if you will make kids school ready and have them develop an imagination. So do me that solid. We'll be back before you know it. Adios, everybody.